First things first, how are you?
I'm good. We just had a great show at the Lowlands Festival, so yeah.
How did it go? Did you know the festival before you played?
My first time doing it. I'd heard about it, but my first time performing at the festival was really great. And the audience was so cool. The weather was like perfect. You know, it was a great day.
And for you as a jazz musician, well, it's quite limiting to call you just a jazz musician, but as someone who plays a lot of jazz, is it always a guess how it will go if you come here to Europe and play certain areas?
You know, I mean, people have kind of like, it's been pretty unanimous. People are really like, you know, they really connected with us. Mm-hmm. So, you know, I feel like the music we're playing has a, it's you know, it's not for it's for everyone.
Sure.
It's not elitist. It's not like only for certain people. I think it's something that, like, you know, I mean, jazz in general is about expression, freedom, mm-hmm. and being able to connect with others, and that's something that's universal. Everyone has those things.
And before we talk about the music that you're making now and the records you put out, I'd like to go back to the beginning quickly, because you grew up in a very musical household. So was it always, in a way, inevitable that you went down that road?
Well, I mean, I grew up in a household where everyone played music. Mm-hmm. You know, at least when you were young. Sure. You know, all my siblings, we all played music. You know, it wasn't forced on us, so it wasn't like, because I'm the only one that decided to pursue music as a career. Okay. But music is a part of everyone in my family's life. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it was definitely something that I knew I'd always do for my whole life. But you know, it wasn't until I was about 13 that I really realized that, like, I want to be a musician.
And like you say, you studied music because you went to a high school that had a lot of music, and you studied music at UCLA. So what did you discover in that period about music, and how did it help you where you are now?
Oh, I discovered a lot. I mean, I discovered most of what I know. Yeah, when I switched to Hamilton, you know, I was at a school with a bunch of the music academy. When I was in high school, I switched to a music academy, and I was around all these young people who were serious about music and different styles of music. So there were like jazz musicians, there were gospel musicians, there were classical musicians. You know, there were like rock and roll musicians and people who were into electronica. So there were all these things, and so you know, I was kind of getting influenced by all of them. So I was playing in a jazz band, and I was playing in an orchestra, and that's why I like learned about, you know, people like Stravinsky and Ravel and, you know, Prokofiev and Debussy and, you know, just a whole other side of music. So. Mm-hmm. Yeah, effectively. And then when I got to UCLA, I studied ethnomusicology, and that's when I started learning about like North Indian classical music and mm-hmm. Indonesian gamelan music, and, you know, like Afrobeat, and like just all of this music from around the world. So they were both kind of more like eye-opening places for me that kind of like, you know, showed me like all their stuff over here, so you can go pursue those things yourself, you know.
And this might sound as a weird question maybe, but did you find a commonality between all those different types of music, because you did study the kind of the culture of music and
Yeah, I mean, music is connected. I mean, there's definitely commonalities between all styles of music. And then there's differences as well, you know? So there's, you know, it's like everyone's the same, but everyone's different.
Right.
You know, everyone has 2 eyes, mouth, nose, 2 ears, but then at the same time, everyone's mouth, nose, 2 eyes, and ears are different. You know, mm-hmm. So it's kind of like that.
Okay. And then, well, you start playing in all different kinds of projects. Where did your own compositions come into this? Your own arrangement, and did you have a kind of an image in your mind what you wanted to do at that point when you were kind of graduating and?
Yeah, I mean, I've always wrote music, you know, before I can even really play it very well. I was writing music, you know. You know, my dad's a musician, so we had instruments all over the house. So we had pianos and keyboards mm-hmm. and all kind of stuff. And he bought us a drum machine, and so we were making beats and writing songs, and yeah. So since I was 11 years old, probably, I've been writing music.
And then do you have a certain vision when you start to compose, or is it how does a composition come?
It's more of a search for
Okay.
me. Sometimes someone asks me to write something like this,
Right.
and then I'm searching to try to write something like this in particular. But other than that, usually I'm just kind of searching. It's like if the lights are off in this room, and someone was like, so I'm like, well, just find something cool. And so you're like, oh, well, I remember that there's some cool stuff on this table. But then there's also this refrigerator that I'm not sure what's in there, but it's dark, so you can't, you have to like kind of search around. It takes a little time, and then you find something, and then you decide what you want to do with it. You know?
And when you kind of stumble onto something, do you know immediately if it's good or not?
No.
Okay.
Because you have to develop it. So you'll find something and you think it's cool, but then depending on what you do with it, it can go one way or the other. You know.
And did it take a long time for you to hone this craft? Because you say you started composing music when you were 11.
I'm still trying to hone it. I mean, it's sometimes you get a good seed, but you don't craft it correctly, and you end up with something that's like And then sometimes you think it's not that good, but then you give it to the musicians, or the people that you're gonna play it with, and then they'll hear something in it to make it great. You know. So it's one of those things you never know. I mean, sometimes in my head, I hear a song that's gonna be great, and I write it down, and I think it's gonna be great, and then people play it, it's like, oh, it doesn't really translate, so there's a lot of different stages to it, and it's, you can play one song a lot of different ways.
Sure. And then, well, because your debut album, The Epic, you play with a lot of people you kind of grew up with, you know for a long time. So how important is it to play with people you know when you're looking for what you just described, when you're going through that process of finding?
Well, there's an advantage that I have with the musicians that are in my band because they're so great and we've known each other for so long. So because they're great musicians, they have a lot of talent, so they have a lot of ability, and then because we've grown up together, like, they know kind of what I'm after. They understand me, they understand my music. It doesn't mean that you have to have someone that you've grown up with to have them understand you. You know what I mean? It's more like, if you end up marrying a girl that you grew up with, and it's like, oh, we have so much history, it's cool, and there's a little bit of advantage you have because we have so much history, we've known each other since we're kids, like, the connection is a little deeper, but that doesn't mean like you can't be happy with someone that you meet later on. So I think that for the sound that we make, these musicians are so one of a kind. Like, there's only one Brandon Coleman in the world. There's only one Miles Mosley in the world. So, what they bring to the table, they're the only one that can bring that particular thing to the table,